Hi, I'm Kel Campbell. Welcome to Red Seal Recruiting's video series on how to write a really great resume. This video is really going to focus on your experience. This is often the part that comes right after objectives. Unless you're just right out of school or your experience is not as well related to the job as your schooling, you definitely want to go right into your experience because an employer is really interested in what you did today for work or what was your last thing that you did at work if you're in a period of unemployment or underemployment. Your experience is key and it needs to be up there right under the objectives section, and it's got to relate in some way to the employer. A lot of employers are going to be very focused on recent, relevant experience. And usually with any job, there'll be some experience that's super relevant and some experience that's completely irrelevant. Keys to finding out about this are really focusing on the job ad, or even better, getting to talk to a hiring manager or somebody who works in that role at the company and understanding their needs. That way you can pull those parts of your experience that you might not have thought of into each experience part of the jobs that you've had in the past. You definitely want to go chronologically, so start with the job you're currently working in, put your start date to present, so people understand you're still working there. It's super important to be working in a job. Employers value people who are already working, so if there's any way to either get a job or be employed, and the best alternative if you're unemployed is to be in a volunteer role, and a substantial one as well. There's lots of organizations that are looking for help. Even if it's a nonprofit, daycare, hospital, there's lots of roles that you can help out on and be gaining valuable experience. So the keys to your work experience are stating the company you worked for, time period you worked there, where it was, and what work you did there. You can put in your job title, but be very careful. It might be a bit of an obscure job title that's niche to either to your industry or just your employer. Follow that up with relevant terms that fit with what the employer is looking for. Look at their job ad. Don't really want to switch the job titles. You really want to explain what the work was that you did and how it relates to their job. And you need to do that right away in the first sentence of how you explain that work experience. I'm fine with bullet points, I'm fine with full sentences. Resume advice is often worth what you pay for it, and you get a lot of cheap advice off YouTube. But in this case, put in the most relevant experience up at the top as it relates to the current company that you're trying to get a job for. And I know it sounds like a lot of work to modify your resume for each employer, but it is hard. There'll be 30 to 40 to 50 to 500 other people applying for the same job as you, and making it clear that you've got the experience will get you an interview. If your experience is very relevant, and you can see that in the job ad, use the same terminology and equipment and techniques that you know the employer is using. Be very careful. Stay away from any terminology that wouldn't be known far outside your industry. Because one of the things you're going to find is that people reading your resumes may not know anything about the job. They might be a new HR person who's sorting out candidates, or a recruiter who's sorting out candidates on behalf of a hiring manager. We're fortunate that we usually get to go meet with our clients, really understand the roles, and have an industrial manufacturing background. So it gives us a lot of context, but you never know who's going to be reading that resume. So you've got to have the right keywords that are relevant for that industry and often matched to their job ad. And if it's not matched to a job ad and you're sending a resume into somebody based on a relationship, find out what's important to them and put that terminology directly in your experience section. One of the things people are going to look for is that relevant equipment, software, or process experience. So make sure to try and put in 1 or 2 lines that are a fit. And if you don't have that exact fit, get something as similar as you can based on your experience. And if you don't have that in your experience, try and add that to the educational section by listening to one of my other videos on how to get that keyword terminology in your resume, either in the objective section or education section. I won't tell you how many pieces of information to put in about every job, but really you want a 2-page resume. And when you're doing your resume for the first time, put a bunch of content in and feel free to remove it out in order to get down to that 2 relevant pages, but importantly that first page. You want that first page and the experience sections that make it on that first page very relevant to the employer. So it might be that your most recent job wasn't very relevant. So 1 or 2 bullet points, 1 or 2 sentences is enough, and then get on to the employment history that is really relevant to the role and expand on that, because you really need that experience on the first page, and it can take a little bit of creative work to get that on the first page, but you need it. You need your relevant work experience on that first page, because most employers won't actually flip to the second page. They'll have made their decision right away after reading the objectives section, and hopefully it is a yes, and they've read through your experience and this has reinforced their views of you, and they're excited to get to the second page and learn more about who you are as a person. That's all I've got for this video. Please listen to our next video, because it really rounds out who you are as a full person, much more than just the paper on your resume, and how you can try and portray that to the people who are going to be reading your resume. If you've got any questions, any comments about your job search, resumes in particular, put them down below. We'll try and get to them in a future video. Thanks so much.